welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing the eyeshadow palette tag. This was created by Samantha March and Allie Glines. They did a collaboration and both did this video. I've also seen MandyLea do this, and she's the one I actually saw first and made me want to do this video. So I have the list of questions. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this is basically just a video talking about eyeshadow palettes and talking about your favorite one, your most expensive, just a bunch of different questions that you answer about your personal palettes. So here are the questions. I'm just gonna go through the list that's on here and show you my eyeshadow palettes. So the first one on here is the newest palette. So my newest eyeshadow palette, which I actually had to stop and think about this because I normally get eyeshadow palettes quite frequently, but this year has just been a little weird and it's been a little while. And the last eyeshadow I've bought was the e.l.f. bite-size eyeshadows. So this would be the last eyeshadow palette that I bought, which is kind of hard to believe. The oldest eyeshadow palette I have, this is kind of embarrassingly old. This was the first eyeshadow palette I ever bought in my entire life. This is from high school. Needless to say, I don't use this anymore, and also they don't sell this anymore. It's easily 15 years old, and it's an Urban Decay palette. I don't know the name of the palette, but it was like Armour or something, I don't know. But this was the only eyeshadow I had, and as you can tell, I used it to death, and I actually went on to purchase singles of This Is Sin, which is completely gone, and I've actually gone through 2 singles of that shade, and then Polyester Bride. I love that beautiful light white shade. So this would be my oldest palette, and I just hold on to it for sentimental reasons. I obviously don't use this, but that is my oldest palette. Okay, next, most expensive palette. Now, obviously it's Natasha Denona. It is the Lila palette from Natasha Denona. This would be my most expensive palette. This is a $129 palette. I did not pay that for this. I paid like 80-ish. I got this on sale and Sephora sale on top of that. So I did get this discounted, but even at that price, it's still my most expensive on sale. So this would be my most expensive palette. All right, most affordable palette. Now, it's kind of boring. I'm gonna have this one in here again. The e.l.f. bite-size eyeshadows. This is the most affordable, $3 for this eyeshadow palette. Definitely my cheapest one. And the disappointing and frustrating part is I like this more than this. Very sad. All right, everyday eyeshadow palette. Now, I'm taking this question to mean an everyday one for me, not necessarily something that would be universally an everyday palette. For a general everyday palette, I would say the Going Coconuts from ColourPop. Most people could use that on an everyday basis. But for me personally, an everyday palette is the Huda Beauty Nude Light palette. It's pastels, pinks, browns. I personally like to wear pinks and purples, and so this for me is a beautiful everyday palette. Next is the most colorful. Now I am wearing the most colorful on my eyes. This was actually difficult because I have some that most colorful could mean brightest colors, could be the most amount of colors, the most amount of vivid colors, but I picked, where are you? I picked the Anastasia Riveria palette, and I feel like I do have a palette that has more bold colors in it, but I really enjoy this palette. I like this one the most. I do have a Juvia's Place palette that has a few bold colors in it, but they're not quite as intensely vibrant. I also have the ABH Norvina Volume 1. So this one is quite bold and colorful. So either one of those, but I'm gonna stick with the Riviera. I really enjoy this formula and I love this palette. It has some of my favorite shades in it, and it's what I'm wearing on my eyes today, if you can't tell. The smallest palette. So this really kind of stinks that this is in here 3 times, but again, the e.l.f. Bite Size is my smallest, newest, most affordable, and smallest palette. Now, opposite of that would be my biggest palette. I have several large palettes. I actually enjoy large palettes because I like having the options all right there, when I don't have a large palette, I tend to dip into several different ones to get the look that I'm wanting. I gotta say, this is the one that has the most shadows. This is the Profusion Sunkissed 35 shade palette. Definitely has the most shadows of the palette that I have, because I have some 30 pans. But in addition, I got this for $5. This is almost my least expensive palette, which is crazy. It has a lot of product in it. That is my biggest palette. Next is my best memory. Okay, so for my best memory, I'm gonna have to give it to the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. The smell just brings me back. This, I think, was the first palette that YouTube made me buy, the first palette that I used on my channel. So this just takes me back to the beginning of my YouTube channel, and the smell just makes me happy. So this definitely has to be the best memory, and I think this is one that I'm going to have to keep forever, just like my first palette. So definitely love the chocolate bar. I feel like I should buy a new one so I can actually use it, because I've had this for like 5 years, 4 or 5 years now. Okay, worth the hype. All right, so a palette I think is worth the hype, and actually I think should get more hype. It got a lot of hype when it first came out, but there aren't a whole lot of people that are still talking about it. But I think it's the Born to Run from Urban Decay. I love this palette. This is probably my, okay, this is going to be another one, but this is one of my most used palettes. I think this is a wonderful all-around palette to have, to get so many different looks. The formula is great. This is definitely, in my opinion, worth the hype. So not worth the hype. Okay, I have two, because I was equally disappointed by these. They are nude palettes from two of my favorite brands for eyeshadow. One is the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded. I was just very disappointed in this palette. I don't like it. I don't like the tones in it. It just kind of underwhelmed me overall. And it's crazy that these are from the same brand. I love this one so much, and this one just really, really disappointed me. And to go with the Too Faced one, this is the Natural Nudes palette. And again, it just pulls too warm for me, and I don't find the shadows to be amazing. The deep one is difficult to blend. It's just not special, and I feel like these two right here are not worth buying for me. I personally, again, I'm going back to ColourPop with the Going Coconuts palette. It is a nice, neutral, everyday palette. These just don't do it for me. Favorite palette from a favorite brand. Anastasia Beverly Hills has quickly become my favorite eyeshadow brand. That and ColourPop, I've kind of been back and forth. I really enjoy both of them. One's high-end and one's more affordable, but I find that across the board, most of their eyeshadows perform well for me, and I really enjoy the formula. But the one, so I'm going with Anastasia, and my favorite palette from Anastasia is the Sultry palette. I love this so much. If I want to feel pretty, if I want to feel dressed up, if I have a special occasion, I go to this palette. The shimmers are so creamy. They go on so pigmented and beautiful, and the mattes blend like a dream. And the tones in this are more neutral. I don't really like really warm browns on my eyes, so I love this. I love that it has a gray, which is hard to find in palettes, and I like using the gray with the black and the silver, like a gorgeous smoky nighttime eye, like special. I really, really love this palette. So this is definitely my favorite palette from my favorite brand. Okay, and the last question for this tag is the most used palette. Now I've already talked about this. I'm going to say that my most used, oh darn it, which one? Okay, I don't know which one is more used. I think since I've had this one longer, I think we're gonna say this one. This is my most used palette. Aside from the chocolate bar and my very first palette, because when I had those were the only palettes I had. So with my larger collection of eyeshadow palettes, this is my most used. This is the one that I go to the most. Duh. This highlight shade has a huge dip in it. It's gonna hit pan, and I think this is definitely my most used palette. So that is the palette tag, and I actually enjoyed going through my eyeshadow palettes and trying to figure out, you know, all these answers. It's interesting that the e.l.f. Bite Size was in here 3 times, but you know, that's just how it happened. I've realized I haven't had a new palette in a while. Does that mean I need one? I don't know. It also means that nothing has caught my attention enough this year for me to buy a palette other than e.l.f. Okay, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. If you did enjoy this, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you wanna see future videos, hit that subscribe button down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Stay gorgeous. Bye. What is this called? A highlight shade. Remember, I had this one out. I can't remember what it was for. I think if I was to go with my ColourPop favorite brand, this was my favorite palette. I really wanted to put this in here because I love the So Jaded palette. So from ColourPop, the So Jaded is my favorite. I kind of cheated there, I'm sorry. Which one did I pick for this? Ooh, Candy Johnson uploaded. Do not drop.